Welcome to today's session, Reclaim Ownership of Your IP Facility with IP Jackfield from Arista, Leader, and Providius. So today you're going to find out how you can reclaim the same visibility you had using an SDI Jackfield in your IP facility. Kevin, Ryan, Steve, and Tony are going to be giving you the inside scoop on how to access all the analysis tools you're familiar with from all three companies. And I think they're going to give you also a couple top takeaways from this year's IBC. So you've got that going as well. You're going to find out how the integration bridges that gap between SDI and IP. And I'm going to say over to you all to take it away.
Cindy, thank you very much. And Steve, as I said, it's good to see you again. Now, we haven't done one of these for a couple of months, have we? So,
yep, IBC kind of got in the middle of that, I think, a little. But yeah, it's great to see you, Kevin.
And obviously, you know, you didn't come over this year. You were sorely missed. Lots of people came looking for you, couldn't find you, so they had to put up with me instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was an exciting show. But I think one of the kind of great things is we've been working with Arista and with Providius now kind of in the background, you know, for about the last 9 months. So to finally kind of let loose on the public what we've been up to with IP Jackfield, you know, it's been really exciting. I think it was well received at the show.
Definitely.
Yeah. So Steve, if you want to take over the host responsibilities.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. So this presents what in the world is IP Jackfield? Ryan, Tony, can you kind of give us a little bit of a background to how this came to be and kind of what it is?
Sure. So, yeah, I'll take this and then pass it to you, Tony. But
Sure.
you know, when I was working with another customer who was in the midst of deploying a really large 2110 network, a request came by for kind of a bit of a better way of monitoring signals. Like everyone knows, you can request a multicast group and request it on a specific monitoring device and look at it anywhere you want, kind of in the network. But that wasn't as that wasn't preferred by this specific customer because they wanted to know what the packets were kind of like coming into the network or be able to monitor it at a very specific point. Kind of like, again, what you're able to do in the in the SDI world. So, myself and the Arista team, we took some of that feedback, gave it some thought, and then, I was at an SVG event, just waiting in a hotel room before the SVG event, and I called Tony up, and I'm like, hey, we got this really cool idea. Do you think this is something that we can work together on? Because we want to be able to monitor a signal at any point in the network. And that's what the IP Jackfield allows you to do. So we needed a solution where there was a monitoring device to actually monitor the integrity of the signal itself, but also someone to be able to direct signals in a specific way, but also know where the signals were going via telemetry. So know that camera one is coming in on this hop, this hop, this hop, and be able to pick those signals apart anywhere in the network to analyze it wherever you want. So that you're not just sending like camera one when it comes in on switch one to some monitoring device that's just on, leaf 50 somewhere. You want to monitor it locally on that switch. Called Tony up. We started brainstorming some ideas. Tony?
Yeah, that's a great segue. And just to add to that as well, coincidentally, we were working with one of our integration partners, and what came up in that conversation was one of our partners said, as they're going through and commissioning one of these projects they were working on, it was the exact wording was, I wish we had the SDI patch field that we're all used to using during commissioning stage, so you can actually check it at various points in your network. That conversation was just had. Ryan called me up, we had that conversation. We go, wait a second, something's going on here. There's something in the ether that we need to talk about further. The software that we build here at Providius is all really scheduled. It's all focused around observability. So what we want to do is leverage the streaming telemetry that Arista sends us. We're getting this live. We're able to discover where traffic starts, where it ends, where it moves across the network. And we're providing the counters and the visibility of those traffic patterns. Well, in addition to that, there is some advanced capabilities that Arista offered, and that led us to this IP Jackfield discussion, which allows the software and these dashboards to be able to make policies within the Arista ecosystem so that we can actually steer or span traffic bit for bit, replicate that traffic, and attach it to a target destination. Now, that target destination could be anything from being able to analyze a signal, doing any sort of like pixel telemetry, if you will, record the traffic. But it seemed like a really great idea. And as we were going through the details, we got to the drawing board, started making some experimentation, and actually quite quickly we were able to use the Arista DMF architecture to be able to safely steer traffic to these target destination points. Ryan, did I summarize
Yeah,
that?
no, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And for those who might not be as familiar with what DMF is, so it's our DANS monitoring fabric. It's essentially a network packet broker solution where various switches within the network, or all the switches, have a connection to this kind of, single switch potentially, depending on the size of your network, and traffic can be spanned via NVRT on a production network switch and be directed to a separate DMF switch that houses all these, a pool of different kinds of tools and analysis devices there. So that's really what's happening, is we're creating mirror sessions on the production network to steer the actual traffic for a specific SG or an entire interface, whatever you want, really, for analysis in our DMF DANS monitoring fabric network.
And here's where that conversation really got interesting, because while Ryan and I were discussing this architecture, one of the key principal components of making this a successful outcome was it had to be open. We wanted to keep this open for the greater good of what we're actually trying to do. And by having this openness, we were able to integrate this technology with the Leader Fabrics platform. And that's how this trio came together, in providing an open platform. It safely uses IT principles that have been around for a very long time. And these IT practices are also being used at a lot of different verticals as well, not just media and entertainment. Ryan, do you have a couple, like, I think the financial
Financials,
markets,
traditional data centers, like
a whole
folks are
bunch.
using these observability
Yeah.
networks all the time. And now we're just kind of applying it now to media and entertainment as well.
Kevin, you got a little comment there.
I have. Well, as I said, Ryan said it was a discussion in a hotel lobby ahead of an SVG meeting. Our kind of involvement started in a bar in Brussels, throwing axes at a log on a wall. Basically, one of our partners had a roadshow, and I think we've all done these roadshows where you've got like 4 or 5 different vendors, and you do 2 or 3 presentations a day. So, first time you hear the presentation from the other people, and it sort of just washes over you and that. And then after about the 3rd time, I'm sitting there thinking, these guys don't have proper waveform monitors and vectors in, vector scope displays and the tools that broadcast engineers use. Yet the whole position is, this is replacing, that B&C Jackfield. So I kind of said to them, what's your thoughts on this? And I think, Tony, the comment was, we had a look at waveforms and they're basically very difficult to accurately recreate. And then along the comments, I don't know how you guys do it, because, but then that's the only thing we do. And that's when it then sparked the discussion about, well, could we, integrate the Leader and Fabrics product range so that, it could see the stream. At the moment, you've got the ability to go port by port by port, but why not put a tool on there that gives a broadcast engineer that picture, waveform, audio bars, the tools that he's been used to for the last 30 odd years. And that's basically how we got to where we are. And obviously, for those of you at IBC, you got the first chance to see it live.
Yeah, it looks like you can just, as the name implies, lay it out, make it look like the old SDI world where we had test points at many places. And the neat thing about this IP is we can do it without even touching the original stream. So, but how is Jackfield allowing the broadcast engineers to confidently monitor, trace, and troubleshoot the stream within the broadcast facility? I think, Ryan, you touched on this a little bit, but can you just expand it just a little bit, how it does it without actually being intrusive?
Sure. You know, we all know that there are going to be many different senders and many different receivers on the network itself. And typically what we see on these kinds of systems is someone wants to monitor a specific, a specific flow, and it gets routed through the actual network itself. But when you're doing that, while multicast is of course replicating the packets, you are at the mercy of somewhat, if there happens to be congestion, TTL, decrements, all, different sorts of things really that might impact the integrity of the signal. So really what this allows us to do is look at where a specific signal is going at any given point. So look at where camera 1 is going. And I want to see how the camera looks coming into the network. So how is this different than a broadcast controller? Well, with the broadcast controller, you say, send me this signal to some receiver somewhere down the line at some other leaf switch. Sure, that'll work. But I want to see what it actually looks like coming into the actual network itself. So a span port is essentially, or a mirrored session is created internally on the Arista switch to forward that traffic to a span port that gets directed to the DMF network into like this middle block here. And what that allows us to do is not just replicate the packets, but we're taking the exact packets through mirror sessions, which is equivalent to like optical taps, really. So we're taking those exact packets anywhere we want in the network and redirecting them to another tool. Now, this is, again, completely independent of any sort of broadcast controller. So you're not affecting the actual routing database. You don't need to really use router control panels. You don't need to be worried about adding or deleting routes that the broadcast controller doesn't know about. So there won't be any contention there. We're simply creating mirrored sessions on the switches and redirecting the specific traffic that we're looking for to a receiver who is interested in this, again, pool of monitoring devices. So that's why that's how we're able to kind of pick it apart. So you can theoretically look at a signal at ingress on the first hop router, at the spine, and at the receiver all simultaneously.
Yeah, I think that's really great how you can maintain the network integrity while doing all these diagnostics are being performed and looking at this, and you're not creating a brand new route for that signal to go through in a completely different path. You're actually testing it via span ports on every switch within that path that signal's actually going through at that point in time, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Wherever you want to look at the signal,
Yeah.
as it's coming into a switch or as it's leaving the switch, wherever you want to look at the signal, you can do that. And there are so many, we're just still at the beginning stages of this integration. Like you can pick apart many signals on the same switch and send them all to different tools. Like the possibilities really are, they're endless with this integration, with this solution.
Yeah, because prior to being able to do this, you'd have to literally pull fiber off an SFP to be able to look at the signal at that point. And
if you want to look at those exact packets as it's coming in, it can be intrusive, or you need a lot of optical taps or something to do that. It can be intrusive. It can be incredibly expensive, right?
Yeah.
But this makes it simpler, and it reduces the cost as well, and gives so much flexibility. Like I can't understand how much flexibility there actually is with this solution.
Well, there might be multiple signals on that one fiber. It is multicast, and you can have a lot of things coming in on one pipe. So
absolutely,
this allows you to cherry pick that one pipe at that exact point.
Absolutely. That's why the targeted one is so, that's why the target, being able to target it is so important. What if someone wants to look at camera 1 and camera 2 and camera 3 on the same switches, right? But they're coming in on other gateways that if you were to add up the total bandwidth, it exceeds that of a span port, right? Like that's why being able to pick them off, cherry pick them, target them is so incredibly valuable. And that's stuff we're continuing to, we saw that, we saw how important that was earlier on, and we're addressing it. Like it's, again, the possibilities are endless on enhancing this solution.
Yeah. Tony?
Yeah, those are all great points. We have the dashboard architecture in place so that our user base was able to navigate through these simple or complex networks to be able to find traffic and where they start and where they end, who's consuming the traffic, but to be able to automate these span policies is really where a lot of the magic occurs because. One, we knew that it had to be open, as I mentioned earlier. Two, we had to ensure that it was easy. So an operator or an engineer was able to safely make and automate these span policies that Ryan's talking about without interfering with the production network. So I think it's a really important piece of this offering is that, or of this technology is that it's completely separated from your router control infrastructure. So any policies that are set or automated through the Providius Arista or integration is completely separate from what's happening on the production network. And whether it's a simple architecture with a simple tab aggregation switch like we're seeing here, where we're creating these span sessions, or it grows into a more complex architecture, it's designed to scale as well. And this is scale across multiple studios, multiple data center wide, across multiple data centers. And as Ryan mentioned, there's a lot of stuff that we're adding on to IP Jackfield. One that might be showing a little bit at NAB New York in the coming month. But also as far as the roadmap goes, the technology is going to grow further beyond this. Steve, one thing I wanted to mention as well is that from our side, when we actually create these policies and we target them to these end devices, like the QXL and also the leader products that sit within the tool farm that you're seeing on the right hand side here, is that this scales beyond just simple or targeted devices. And what I mean by that is as you guys bring on more technologies and more products, that integration just gets seamlessly added. And because we're leveraging a lot of NMOS integration here, SCPs can be patched across, like everything that we're doing here is built on openness. That way we're not limiting the velocity of progression. So the idea here is that this IP Jackfield is built to be an open community, and as we start to see, more vendors wanting to join the system or the solution with other technologies that are coming out from yourselves, it's easily added and easily onboarded. I think
Tony, if I can add one other
yeah.
thing here, because I heard you mentioning just about like the simplicity of it, like the interaction that you guys have with the broadcast controller is so important here too. To be able to, so that a user can look at, like, say, again, camera 1 and route that to a specific signal instead of having to manually type in one of like 10,000 multicast addresses or fat finger those as well, right? Like creating those mirror sessions is just, and then creating the ACLs if you want to do targeting manually, of course it can be done, but it's time consuming. Having a system to abstract all that, to do that automagically is fantastic. Right? Like it simplifies the whole workflow and it keeps broadcast operators from having to memorize or look up in an Excel table what is the multicast address for, control room camera 1, for example. Oh, just look at the router mnemonic, and Providius will do the rest and route it to their tools and leader tools as well.
Exactly. If I can take just a moment and show the audience here a simple slide, and maybe we can actually get to a live demo as well. It's what we call the IP Jackfield 3-step simple signal workflow. And within 3 steps, and Ryan was just mentioning this, is that within the Providius software, we have that abstraction layer. So you can search for a multicast if you choose through the dashboard. But since we have that integration with a control system, we do what we call label exchange. And what label exchange allows us to do is we'll read all the telemetry coming in from the network. We'll have this atlas of multicast and where they're starting and where they're going. But then the control system will provide us attributes and details about those addresses. For example, camera one, or this is a particular audio flow that's named microphone one. In our search engine, we're able to search for the mnemonic. And what that'll do is that's part of step one. You can actually target where those flows are going. Step number two is that if we want to create a Jackfield policy, we simply just select what flow we're interested in. And by the way, I should mention as well is that in a -7 environment, that's also included. So you can search for video with its backup, with audio and grouping environments, and be able to create these span sessions with what we call ACL policies attached to it to send it to a target device. So step number two is selecting where you want to send it to. And then step number three, what you're seeing is two pictures. The upper picture is an analysis endpoint that Providius builds called the BMG, where we do all sorts of signal analysis, in a high density environment, can support all different sorts of media formats. And then in the lower image, what you're seeing is the integration that we've done with the QXL. And here you're going to get pixel perfect, accurate telemetry of the signal itself. And by leveraging NMOS registries and seeing what receivers are available, it all happens. I like the word you use there, Ryan, auto magically. I think you used that word.
Yeah,
So it's really streamlined to a simple 3-step workflow. And that's kind of what we're trying to show here in this slide. It's just anything from engineering workflows to operational workflows, supervisory layers. You can create these policies and you can do them safely.
I think the thing that struck me at the show when we showed people is that step one where it's showing the network topology. To a broadcast engineer, he can't access that because that's the network engineer guy's tool. And the tools they have that display that allow you to reconfigure it. And as broadcast engineers, we're not allowed to touch tools that reconfigure the network. So they don't get to see it. So suddenly now, and several people said to me, at last, I can see what the network looks like. I can see what the traffic is on the network. Because I don't have access to that in my facility, yet I'm responsible for the pictures being recorded and going out the other end.
Yeah, I think that comes back to, how you can monitor both, packet delivery and QoE of what the end product actually is from a single user interface. And bring it up on the QXL and actually look at it. And I love that you brought it up, Tony, about being able to do -7, because really in a 2110 environment, there really isn't a primary and a backup. The packet picker is picking whichever packet shows up at the gate first. So 50% of your traffic technically should be coming from the red network. 50% of your traffic should be coming from the blue network. So you got to look at both networks as a uniform. And that's one of the beautiful things the waveform monitors do, because they do have a packet picker in the front of their display of all the data. And they will give you the unified display of, okay, my -7 is actually working, because you could actually have one side of your network down and not even know it.
All right, let me log into something we call NVRT here. So this is our Providius network visibility and real-time telemetry. And what you're going to see is a number of different things, a number of different dashboards here. You'll see what we call a monitored flow list, where we're tracking all sorts of different flows. And to your point, Steve, what you're referring to just a moment ago with -7 is something that NVRT tracks, and it's called flow symmetry. And what flow symmetry does is that we will track to see if a red path and a blue path are actually symmetrical. And if they're not, we have an early warning system that says, hey, you're hopping on one leg. Should you need to use your backup leg, it's not available for you, or there's some sort of discontinuity or packet breakup. And that's one of the attributes of NVRT, is that it's tracking that sort of health. Whether you're looking at it from a point of view of multicast bookings here that we're seeing in the table, or you want to look at it from the point of view of a topology view. You can see here I have a red and blue Arista network here. We're looking at congestion across the network. But what Ryan was talking about earlier with regard to being able to search for a flow, that's where our search engine comes in. So I can search by multicast, but with our label exchange integration, I can ask the control system, I want to know, let's say, for example, what a flow called, let's say, speed, if I can spell here, speedboat video and speedboat video backup. So what NVRT has done here is that it has created what we call a compound search. And what a compound search is that it's now tracking where the red and blue are flowing across the network. So I can see here that I have a neuron gateway here. It is sending both the red and blue into a red Arista and a blue Arista, and then it's being received on one side. Or sorry, it's being received at a common destination point. So in that case here, now what this allows me to do is I can interact with these different links. I can see what kind of bit rate and traffic is on here. I can span the interface. But if I want to do a deeper dive, this is what we call the traffic page. And what the traffic page does is that it's actually going on the interface of where that signal is being received. And this could be, in fact, what my inspection point is. So if I want to actually look at the traffic bit for bit, identical from interface 49 on this red Arista switch, I can do that without having to join it 4 or 5 hops deep into my network from where my analysis point is. And this is what we'll create, what we call an IP Jackfield policy. So our dashboard has a composition of a number of different things. One is that's giving us in the upper left here, like the physicality of the network, SFP metrics and optical levels and uptime and PTP rates, etc. In the lower left, you're seeing counters, and these are what we call they're segregated by what we call error buckets, or through a timeline dashboard. Receive traffic, we're able to track this and log it, and we can see how much bandwidth is being transmitted, and if it's leading with PTP. But what you'll see on the right hand side here is exactly where the composition of the bandwidth is broken out. So of the 8 gigs of traffic that's being received on interface 49, what the dashboard has done is that it's broken out all the different various formats. We can tell if it's video, if it's audio. We can see who sent it, what multicast address it is, on what UDP port. We can grab information from the SDP. So we become very aware of what the signals are that's flowing through this interface. And what you'll see here is that there is an IP Jackfield workflow here. And what that allows us to do is that if I were to activate the IP Jackfield policy configuration, the software is going to take you through a very simple workflow. It's already targeted the multicast address that you want. You can configure it for -7, or what we call path 2, or the backup. It has already auto-populated the interface that you're looking at. Now, this is where the destinations become available. Any IP Jackfield certified device will appear in this registry. And what you can see is there's a QXL here. If I were to select that particular QXL, the software will automatically discover what receivers are available for that destination. And that's when, once we have configured that particular receiver, and I have one already active, and I'll show it to you in a moment, what that'll do is NVRT will then, under the hood, will create all the policy configurations to create the span, the mirror session. It will interact with the Arista DMF controller to create the filter policies necessary to get it across the wire and over to the target destination. So once a user clicks submit, and I've already pre-configured one here, you'll see this is a VNC into my QXL. You'll see the video already sent, it's received, and all the magic that the QXL does to be able to give you that accuracy of the signal is present. Maybe I can send this back to Steve or to Kevin, maybe to talk about this dashboard a little bit more and what we're seeing here.
Okay. Yeah. So in the top left corner, it's just a simple flow table. It's telling you the red and blue networks coming in, what the bandwidth is. Are we picking up any sequence errors, RTP errors? Just underneath that flow table is the actual packet timing from the min max and looking for outliers. So are you getting drops? Are you getting packets really late, really early? And we actually have a table on the far left-hand side for the video, one in the middle for the audio, one on the right for the ancillary data. So it just depends on what you've jackfield into the QXL to how it will be displayed, and then be able to give you timing metrics, as well as down on the bottom, you can actually physically see the video, you can see the picture, you can see the waveform, a vector scope, and then if we were to jackfield the audio, it would actually give you the audio laid out. Kevin, anything else?
No, I mean, as I said, you set this up as, a very traditional kind of IP setup, but it's up to the user. If you own a QXL, you've probably got your own preferred layouts and bring them up. I think the only one you didn't mention is obviously the top right-hand corner with, the NMOS kind of reporting tool, which I just think that's great. The little green ticks tell me that it's received what it's expecting and that the system's healthy.
Yeah.
So, from a broadcast engineer, and there are a lot of them out there, that, the QXL is, their go-to fault-finding product. And here it now sits in the heart of an IP network.
And as Kevin said, you can make this layout look like anything you want. You can double click on one of the tiles, make it bigger, move it around, just make your own, save it off as a preset. And this just happened to be the one that I built just to be able to display all of the IP metrics up on the top and give us just a little shelf down on the bottom of the actual decoded video.
That sounds great.
As I said, the great thing with this was at the show, I won't know who the customer was, but we sat down, we started introducing it, and within about 90 seconds, he said, "You don't need to tell me anymore. This is what I did with SDI video, but you can do it in IP."
Yeah.
He goes, "I've been waiting for this."
Yeah. And the nice thing about it, it's, non-intrusive. It's picking what switch you want to look at. So you can look at the whole layout of the network, and actually, my stuff, if it is a complicated network, was always start in the middle, cut the network in half, look left, look right, cut that in half, and just start popping into the jack fields you want to look at, if you will.
No, it's a great tool, and as I said, the number of people that I think Ryan walked past the Arista booth and saw the QXL sitting on the desktop and kind of go, "What's that doing?" And then as soon as they see this, they go, "Oh, I know what you've done."
No, it's very nice to be able to show those kinds of live demos that really resonate, I think, with with the industry. Talking about how Arista delivers packets is great. Talking about our orchestration, monitoring, all that stuff is great. But to actually see this kind of partnership in action is really neat. And again, just to go back to it, we're really scratching the surface. This isn't just limited necessarily to SMPTE 2110, of course, right? Like this kind of integration can be used for, control and monitoring. If you want to look at specific IS-04, IS-05 commands, if you want to look at unicast traffic, if you want to look at things over content over a WAN and bring it back to your home base to monitor, this is the possibilities really are endless there. It doesn't have to be just multicast, it doesn't have to be just 2110. It could be anything that video analysis tools can monitor, anything that these tools can monitor, and anything that can direct the traffic to where it needs to go. It's very cool.
Yep. No, I agree. 100%. So, Kevin, do you think we've got a little time for one or two questions?
I think it'd be rude not to. Our audience know that we take these on the fly, don't they?
Yeah, we take a
But they
few.
like to see us squirm, don't they?
Yes, yes. Or did you want to jump out to what any of you saw at IBC this year that everybody thought
Yeah,
was
we get a
interesting?
quick run round. I mean, obviously, as I said, you didn't make it. So, like NAB, where I watched it from 6,500 miles away. Um, yeah, I mean, I'll kick off and said my kind of feeling this year. It was less about wow, new shiny toys. It was about consolidation. As manufacturers, we're now delivering these solutions. These are things that you can talk to your channel partner, your account manager. You can get a quote from them, you can get a price.
Yeah,
You can take this now and install it. I think that was probably the biggest takeaway, because I think everybody's under pressure, and you know they need to deliver savings, they need to deliver efficiencies, and basically being promised jam tomorrow, he's not going to cut it with a lot of you know some of these broadcasters might not be even around if they have to wait for 12, 18 months for some of these solutions to land. They're looking for it now. And that was kind of my takeaway from the show, that it's happening.
yeah.
Those that are deploying these solutions are seeing the benefit, and they are getting the jump on their competitors.
Was there anything that really stuck out to you, Ryan, other than what was happening in your booth itself?
Well, unfortunately, I too was unable to attend IBC, but I can definitely talk about that. Yeah, like from our booth perspective, we were heavy, of course, into orchestration, heavy into showing off like 400 gig, because that's very common now. The the IP Jackfield demo was friggin' packed the entire show, people wanting to see it. Our MCS demos for our homegrown orchestration solutions were packed. People are wanting to do different things there with orchestration. That's what we came back with. That people are wanting to add more hops or have more security. Security is always top of mind. Understand how we can automate the deployments of the networks to make them you know more efficiently deployed, more accurately deployed. From what I gather, that was what really stuck out for us at the show.
Yeah. Tony,
Yeah,
anything
I
in
can.
particular for the show that popped out?
Yeah, I can certainly add to that. Actually, Kevin makes a really good point about integration and consolidation. What I really liked about specifically this project that we did between Providius and Arista and the Leader Fabric system was that we addressed a real world problem. We sorted out the details between us vendors in the background. And to Kevin's point, the the solution or the consumer of this solution is taking it on headache free. They know that the wrinkles have been ironed out. These three companies have worked constructively together to actually solve a problem that the customer has. And I'd love seeing that across the industry. In fact, I wish, we see a lot more of it too. So this is the sort of precedent that really gets me excited about solving and addressing real world problems. And with respect to Ryan's point about what we had on the booth, yeah, the IP Jackfield was great. We saw it really busy on the Arista booth. It was packed on our booth as well. Well, we also launched a project that I've been working on with some of our teams here, was a platform that we call Cryo. And Cryo also integrates with the IP Jackfield system. But what we can do is we can steer traffic to the Cryo software, which is a software that Providius built. And it's all about recording traffic. So now this recording system allows you to create filters, and you could look for very specific IP addresses, types of traffic, different protocols. It's being used for SRT traffic as well. And it's addressing some very acute problem statements as well. But between the Cryo platform, IP Jackfield, and a lot of other different technologies that we launched at IBC. It was definitely a great showing. We're looking forward to NAB New York as well for those folks that are going to make it there.
Great. And Kevin, it looked like you had a little bit of interest around the SPG side of things.
We certainly did. So obviously we've got, the LT4670, which, works with both the traditional SDI, Black and Burst, tri-level sync, and PTP. But what's becoming clear talking to a lot of customers that, GPS, GNSS was taken as, being rock solid, reliable. You could bet your bottom dollar on it. Unfortunately, with some things that are going on in the world at the moment, jamming, spoofing of GPS signals is becoming pretty common. So there's a lot of people now looking for alternatives, and we were demonstrating using PTP as a reference, because as we migrate to IP here, and Ryan could probably confirm this, a lot of the IT departments are that one step ahead of the broadcast, and they actually own the PTP kind of house reference. So now we're seeing broadcasters looking to use that PTP house reference for the broadcast systems. And then it drops down that they need Black and Burst and tri-level sync because they've still got traditional studio cameras and things like that. So, we were, as Tony just said, we're addressing a headache that some people don't know they've got coming their way. Others are acutely aware of it and, need to, looking for solutions. And, with the 4670 and the changeover unit, they're there already.
Great. Sounds good. So, Cindy, why don't you give us a question or two and we'll throw it out to the four of us here.
You got it. So many questions. So just for all of you who don't hear your question coming up right now, don't worry. We'll get back to you afterward and take care of every single person. A question was, is there a limit to the amount of streams that can be monitored with IP Jackfield?
I think the limit really comes down to, on the Arista side, like how many ports you want to have in your span port itself, or how big you want your span port to be. So typically what we see is customers are using, like on, say, leaf switches, one of their host facing ports. So if it's a 48YC8 switch, 4810/25 gig and A100 gigs, they're dedicating maybe like Ethernet 48, port 48, which is a 25 gig flow, or 25 gig interface, to dedicate as a span port. If it's a 100 gig interface with 400 gig uplinks, they're dedicating one 100 gig uplink. So we haven't really encountered any challenges from a scale perspective. We can easily handle the right, as many mirror sessions as we would need on these switches that will allow us to send, single flows or tens of flows or however many we need to the actual, DMF network. So while I am sure there is a limit, and feel free to email me, whoever asked this question, I am very confident that we will not be hitting anywhere near that limit, as it'll probably be in the many, many hundreds per switch.
Nice, nice. There were a couple questions around health monitoring systems, and could you do some kind of interrogation, like can you analyze the cameras and tell me what may be close to failing, or is there an NMOS control system that gives health and monitoring? So different questions around that type of activity.
That's a good one.
Well, I think this system is designed really right now to look at the 2110 traffic and deal with that piece of your network. There are a lot of other tools that take care of other monitoring of specific individual devices that are feeding the network, but we're looking at what's coming into a switch, what's leaving the switch, and every single point that hits, I think, is what the IP Jackfield is all about.
And I'll just add to that a little bit as well. Like for 2110, that's absolutely right. That's where the IP Jackfield, the virtual patch panel, addresses it. But Ryan brought up an interesting point earlier as well, is that in addition to the 2110 traffic, we can IP Jackfield other types of traffic as well. And that is where, for example, like the cryo system that I was talking about earlier can now start to pick apart, NMOS transactions that are going across, let's say, a management plane, TCP traffic, control system instruction sets to an orchestration layer. So we can IP Jackfield or mirror traffic that's going across a control plane, analyze it, record it, seeing what those traffic patterns are. Uh, it's a parallel to what we're doing in 2110, but the IP Jackfield certainly will cover a wide range of different applications. So for the NMOS question, absolutely, yeah, there's certainly health metering and statistics that are available with this as well.
Great. To your point, Tony, there were a few more questions about NMOS, and maybe one of you want to speak to just any more details around the inputs or how you set it up, degradation factors. Those were some of the questions that came in around NMOS, if that's a fit.
Yeah, it's I can certainly speak to that a little bit, and then maybe I can open up to the floor as well. There's quite a lot there for sure. Of course, the transactions to the registry, any sort of patching, being able to even intercept STPs to be able to see like if they're constructed properly. It's a very wide range of different NMOS problem statements that we can look through through the IP Jackfield lens. Probably in fact, actually, we probably want to do another webinar specifically maybe around that topic actually, because that does come up a lot in discussions. It's something that we're probably more geared towards our cryo integration with IP Jackfield, so I'll probably park that one to another session. But yeah, it's definitely off topic for sure.
Nice. Well, we've got a couple questions about measuring delay. There's a question around lip sync and another one about how are tracking and measuring latency and jitter happening. So I wondered if those might be something you could address.
Yeah, the leader products do have AV delay, and the neat thing about it is it's actually decoded video and decoded audio, so it's not looking at just timestamps, because timestamps can be put in wrong and cause some issues, but we decode the actual audio itself. And one of the neat things is you can, with the Jackfield, pick those at different points through the network and be able to look at it. It does take a specific pattern to be placed on. It is a out of service test, because you want to be able to put something in there that you know where the video is, you know where the audio is at that given instant in time. But yeah, Tony and I have talked about that. It's something that would work very nicely within the confines of this whole architecture.
We've got a sort of forward-looking question here, and we'll just throw this out there and see how y'all feel about it. But there was a question around MXL and with the transition from ST2110 to MXL. Is that a fit here in this conversation, or is that another session that we would think about later?
That's another.
Don't worry, some of us have still got the scars from MXF.
Yeah.
True that. All right.
Yes.
Well,
Let's just move down the alphabet and use another letter at the end, MX something.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we've hit this pretty good, but
I think so.
Like Cindy said, the four of us will go through every single question you guys submitted. We will answer each question and get back to everybody, and as fast as we can get it mixed in with the rest of our lives. So we'll go through all these questions and get back to you. This whole session will be posted on the Leader YouTube channel, so you will be able to, if you have someone else who missed it, and you want to have them be able to see this, you want to be able to see it again, it will be posted on the Leader YouTube channel, and it will be given over to both Providius and Arista. So we will have it out there.
All right, wonderful. Thank you all. Good to see you.
Thank you once
Cool.
again,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
And
Thanks,
Tony and
everyone.
Ryan, thanks for subjecting yourselves to this live.
No problem. No problem. You know, there are some great questions out there that I see that I'm looking forward to answering. Stuff about like, you know, GRE encapsulation and things like that. Like I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to answering some of these questions because it'll just also push the products forward. So thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate this. Like it's
Yes.
fantastic. Thank you.
Hey, I hope everybody enjoyed this session. We love it. We like to keep them light and be actually live and go through this stuff. So thank you, everybody, and we look forward to the next one.